Hey, I'm Tosin Abasi from Animals as Leaders, and I graduated from the Atlanta Institute of Music. I was a self-taught guitar player, and I was semi-professional. I was touring in a band called Reflux, and we were signed and pretty active. I was learning a lot of technique on my own from instructional videos and composing my own music that I was pretty happy with. But it got to the point where I started to hear players who were outside of what I could dissect, guys like Alan Holdsworth, and just, jazz in general was just like this abstract, like, what's going on here? So it started to bug me because I felt like up until that point I could figure out the sound I wanted, and then I just realized you've got to understand music a little bit better to really know why they're creating these sounds and colors. So it was actually the drummer of the band that I was in. I think he was feeling the same way I was feeling, and he did some research. I guess, he was like, there's this school in Atlanta, the program's really short, it was a reasonably priced school, and we were just really kind of excited about the potential of this. So I think we came to an open house. And I think I got a chance to look at the curriculum, and I saw the things on there, and it was like, all right, this looks like it's definitely gonna do the trick, So the band kind of went on hiatus, and because the program here is, if you go full time, it's a year long. It was very much like, hey, we could get back to touring. We'll just take a year off, get way better, and then go back on tour. So the whole idea was to do AIM and then come out a better player. It really was the catalyst to that change that I was looking for. Once I got here, I was aware of my limitations as a guitar player, or my weak points. And this is coming from someone who felt like they were pretty good at guitar at this point. I've been playing for over 10 years, and I'd done a lot of work on technique, like I said. So for all intents and purposes, I sounded like I could play. But, could I improvise over a ballad? Or could I voice a chord in a very, unique way? That just, there's all these things that, because of my tunnel vision of what I liked, I wasn't really building in these other areas that actually just really would have contributed to me being a better musician in general. So coming to AIM was cool because the faculty was all really, great musicians. And, it's kind of okay, yeah, these guys are killing, and, there's a lot you can learn from them, whether they're playing your style of music or not. So it was very cool to see the diversity in the staff, the faculty, and the fact that they're all musicians, but really, really accomplished. So for me, it was these new influences that were people that I could talk to, but also look up to, and in a way who weren't necessarily they're great, you can play, but we're here to make you better. So let's talk about the things that you're not doing, So it was a very healthy environment for me to really kind of start from the beginning in a lot of ways. And then, my peers who are also taking classes, just a community of musicians as far as staff and your actual student body. So it's just a cool community, and it's a cool environment to be focused on music around other people who are focused on music. Toughest thing for me was reading, because it's almost as if I was worse off because I've been playing guitar for so long. I developed it to a degree on the guitar, but my reading was preschool. So it was as if it would have been better if I could have paralleled my development with the reading and stuff, because now I have this degree of fluency, but when I went to go read, it's the cat ran up the hill, you know what I mean? So that was but then I knew that there was these benefits to reading, and here they kind of stress that, and you start to realize that if you can read, especially as a guitar player, we're notorious for not being able to read, but you have these advantages. So you can play, but can you play and can you read? Well, then you might get the gig over the guy who can just play. And there's just things like that really were just all right, man, everything isn't easy. Sometimes you just gotta work hard, and you really benefit from it. So I'd say the hardest thing for me was definitely kind of bogging down and focusing on the reading stuff. Directly after completing the program at AIM, I had retained contact with the record label that my band was on, and they were interested in doing a instrumental guitar-based release, which was perfect. And what's actually funny is before I enrolled at AIM, they offered me this solo guitar thing, and I actually felt like I wasn't ready yet. And going to school was part of like making steps towards like saying I can compose an album with no vocalist, you know, instrumental music, and make it, you know, coherent, listenable, strong material. And coming to AIM like totally opened up my ability to voice lead, voice chords, just, you know, understand diatonic chord progression. So these things that like I felt were the final step to me finally being able to say I can make this statement as a solo guitar player. So directly after leaving AIM, I just followed through on that offer. So I recorded this album, and they put it out, and you know, it led to me going on tour with my band full time. So this is all music that I've created exactly what I wanted to, like, you know, my total conception of the sound that I wanted. And I've just been touring with this band, Animals as Leaders, since I left AIM, and I've done clinics at schools that, like, you know, people dream of going to. I've been a clinician there, and I've met musicians who I've looked up to, you know, and they validate me. And I've been in, you know, publications and played in countries I never thought I would go to. So I've just been kind of living the dream, I guess, like as far as playing guitar and only playing guitar. You know, I think Guitar World has been kind of looking in at the sort of genre of music I've been playing with. There's been a resurgence in progressive metal, progressive music. I feel like musicianship is re-entering the picture. People are like, yeah, they're wanting to become extremely skilled on their instrument. And Vai was kind of a fan of the album that I put out, and I had met him in Hollywood because he came to the House of Blues just like as a friend and a fan. He's like, hey, I like what you're doing, I'd love to check out your band. So he came and we met then, and it was kind of the beginnings of like, you know, a relationship. And so I guess the Guitar World might have approached his people and him with this idea of like, hey, you kind of like blazed the trail for instrumental rock and virtuosic playing, and you moved all these units and really legitimized instrumental music, you know, in this way. And there seems to be this like new scene of guys who are like following in this path and maybe even going other places. And I guess they wanted to like put that stuff together on this like one cover. And he's releasing a new album as well, so it's like perfect timing. And I don't know, I got the call and it was just like, do you have to ask? Like, you know? And Steve is an amazing guy, and it's the interview that we did for that was more of a conversation, an effortless conversation that I'm really glad ended up being transcribed into a quote-unquote interview. But, you know, it was just one of those like moments where you never thought would happen. Like, I had a few moments where I'm like holding my guitar next to Vai, and it's just like, wait a minute, like, this is real. This is gonna be like in supermarkets and stuff like that. So anyway, that was definitely like something I'll never forget, and I'm super happy about it. The way anyone gets endorsed is because they do a good job of like, you know, it's like, yeah, okay, I play on an Ibanez guitar and I sound good, so maybe Ibanez guitars sound good. But the cool thing is I work with Ibanez guitars, and that's been my instrument of choice for years. Even though I was going here, I was just buying Ibanez guitars. So it's kind of cool that I ended up working with a company that I would have chosen to pay for their instruments anyway. And they're innovative, and they like that I'm kind of like going into different territory. I'm playing an 8-string guitar. You know, this is kind of like new territory for, you know, manufacturers. So I feel like I'm doing a good job of legitimizing the 8-string guitar, and for them it's beneficial because it's showcasing like what this instrument can do, you know? So it's very mutually beneficial, and they're a very established company, obviously. So I benefit from that as far as, you know, marketing and advertising and just infrastructure. If I go abroad and I need an instrument just there waiting for me, it's done. So being a better musician has benefited me on that level as well. And then, you know, I'm working with Fractal Audio Systems for like amplifiers. Well, they make an amp modeler, but I think it's landmark. It does what most units who have claimed to do this sort of like be all end all. I think they're actually achieving it, and they're every day, you know, they're updating the firmware. So you're getting these like these revisions on something that you were already like blown away with. So they're another innovative company that I think is responding to maybe my innovation on my instrument. So, you know, there's these mutual sort of beneficial elements to like the way I've chosen to approach my instrument, and then who's resonating with that and producing instruments and products that are gonna, you know, allow me to do that and interest other people in doing the same thing. So I would say I would speak on like the change in my playing and how I really kind of evolved from coming here, and how I can see the future of my playing available to me in a way that is different than if I like knew less about music theory, knew less about my instrument. Now I just know that all the information I got at AIM doesn't stop once I leave the school. It actually changes my comprehension of everything I receive in general. And so I'm better off spending the rest of my life developing because I've come here and kind of, you know, I've oriented myself. It's like, it makes more sense. So I would say, man, if you have any doubts, I'm sure they can answer your questions. If I have to speak on my experience, I would recommend doing it for sure.